Today's verses was really just the beginning of the story. And what I would encourage you to do is after this video, go back to John, the 4th chapter, and read the rest of the encounter that Jesus has with this woman. The reason we have these two verses is because there are some things that at the beginning of this, that unless you understand the background of what is happening here, you don't really understand how shocking this is that Jesus is having this encounter with this woman. You see, the Bible tells us, first of all, that this is a Samaritan woman. Now, Samaritans and Jews did not get along. They did not get along at all. Samaritans, in the Jews' minds, were called half-breeds. They were part Jewish, part Gentile, and it's worse than being just fully Gentile. It's corrupting their own bloodlines, is the way that they looked at it sometimes. And so for a Jewish man to talk to a Samaritan woman was just unheard of. Now, during this time, and remember, we're talking about first century in the Middle East, a man talking to a woman was scandalous anyway, just by themselves. It was deemed inappropriate. It was deemed salacious. You didn't never wanted to get into that kind of situation, and yet what we see here is Jesus breaking some boundaries here in order to reach this woman. And then the next thing I want you to notice is that Jesus asked her for something. He says, "Give me a drink." He is starting this conversation with this woman with something that she knows very well. She probably comes to this well every day. It's telling that she's by herself. Usually, the women of that time, they would come in groups. It was just safer to be in a group of people in order to collect the water that was a lot of times situated outside of town on a major roadway, really. And so you never wanted to get caught out there by yourselves. And here she is, and you know that she knows she has to have this water, but she sees this man up there, and yet she either is desperate enough for water or does not care enough of her own safety that she risks it anyway. And so when she comes up there, Jesus simply asks her, "Give me some water." Then what's interesting about our passage is that it tells us that they're alone. Jesus has sent his disciples to go get some food. And by this time, it's very, very early on. It's not 12 of them. At the most, it's 6, probably more like 4. But they've gone to go get some food and to bring it back. And Jesus is left there at this well by himself in order to have this divine encounter with this woman. And that's what this is. It's a divine encounter. Jesus has put people, or God has put people in the places that he needed them to be in order to hear what they needed to hear at the time they needed to hear it. What an incredible appointment that this is. That Jesus would be at the exact moment, at the exact time, with the exact person who's going to need to hear a message. Now, when you go back after this video and you read the rest of this passage, I want you to notice a couple things. Number one, she's antagonistic. She is offended that Jesus would speak to her because she already knows the prejudice that Jews have toward Samaritans. Number two, she is amazed. She is amazed that Jesus, number one, speaks to her so well, and number two is knows things about her that she wouldn't think he would know. And number three is that he is life-changing. What does she do? She goes and runs and tells everybody that she has found the Messiah, that she has found the long-awaited one. And she can't wait to tell everybody about this encounter she had with Jesus. Now, what's amazing about this is that we all have a story similar to this, or we should, of a time when we encountered Jesus in such a way that he changed our lives. What's interesting is for my life, it's not just at the day of my salvation, but they happen on a regular basis. Jesus continually changes my life today. He continually changes my life on a weekly basis. And it's amazing that all these passages and all these stories about him that I've heard my whole life growing up, they're fresh and new somehow every time I read them. And so that's part of what we're doing here. That's part of this Bible study thing, is that we're trying to find Jesus, trying to find God, and maybe in a different way than we are used to looking at him. We want to be challenged. We want to be stretched so that we can grow in him. Have a good week. Don't forget, go back and read the rest of the story.